Good evening, children of the night. Many people suffer,
afraid to tell their stories.
Encounters remain locked away,
like skeletons tapping on your closet door.
Join me, Blake Lewis, and my enchanting co-host,
Alicia Jones,
as we continue to delve into darkness, searching
through silence.
Welcome back to another thrilling episode of our paranormal podcast we are so very proud of, where we explore the darkest depths of the supernatural. I'll be your host this evening, following up from last night's reading that we ended up releasing. That was a very successful moment when it came to where we are going to be bringing this podcast moving forward, trying to dive into different aspects and attack different scenarios in the paranormal world itself and in the horror genre itself. We're not afraid with this podcast to be going out of the norm of setting one straight way about doing things. We can have horror movie reviews, and we can have serious moments where we sit back and we think about paranormal in general and how it overall affects our existence in this reality. We also can go out of our way and talk about encounters that you might have, that you share with us, and in the past have brought situations that others who struggle with paranormal events to have a platform to share their information with others and share their names or keep themselves as an unknown individual. That way they don't put their own personal reputation on blast. So, for tonight, we have something special in store for all of you creatures. Get ready to be captivated as we embark on a bone-chilling journey through 3 terrifying short stories. Yes, that's right. Tonight we introduce a brand new segment called Terror Tales. So, settle in and get comfy, because you're about to be transported into a world of spine-tingling suspense where the unimaginable becomes a reality. Brace yourselves, creatures of the night, as we dive headfirst into these haunting narratives. Are you ready? Let's begin. All Hallows Eve is normally the night most of the little demons throughout the world climb out from the recesses to wreak havoc on people trying to stay safe, locked inside of their homes, peeking out of their windows for any potential vandals who might come creeping closer to their chambers. However, some stories are far worse, and lives are forever changed from a single act of cruelty. Tonight's first tale is one such story that brings cruelty to light and allows the devil to dance in the pale moonlight. The title of this tale, Mischief Night. In the small town of Havenport, Mischief Night was a night of laughter and harmless pranks. However, this year, Mischief Night would take a sinister turn that no one would forget. Sam Crewley, a shy teenager often subjected to the cruel jokes of his peers, decided to attend Havenport High's Halloween dance. Donning a ghost costume of pure white with a menacing pumpkin mask, he hoped this might be the night he could finally fit in. But destiny had a different plan. Upon entering the auditorium, Sam mustered up the courage to ask the prettiest girl at the party, Bella, for a dance. In response, Bella snatched her fruit punch and violently squeezed it over Sam's head, releasing a torrent of sticky crimson liquid that seeped into the fabric of his ghost costume. The auditorium erupted with the vicious laughter of his peers, each piercing cackle stabbing at Sam's wounded soul. Shattered and humiliated, Sam fled the auditorium, his vision blurred by tears streaming down his face. As he stumbled down the dimly lit hallway, he collided with Old Joe, the school janitor, a man known for his particular demeanor and uncanny, almost paranormal nature about him. His eyes, filled with malevolence, seemed to harbor a devilish spirit, as if he was a man from hell itself. Looking at the devastated Sam, Old Joe reached into his pocket, revealing a gleaming blade, its serrated edge reflecting the flickering fluorescent lights. He whispered, his voice dripping with sinister intent.
"Take care of them, boy."
Filled with a newfound resolve, Sam returned to the auditorium. His tears, they were replaced by a cold, hard stare. As he stepped in, the heavy wooden door slammed shut with a thunderous force, sealing everyone inside. It was as if an unseen force had taken control, leaving no room for escape. The laughter that had once echoed throughout the hall now dissolved into an eerie silence, ominous and suffocating. Sam, now a spectral figure in his stained costume, began his dance of revenge. The blade, an extension of his vengeful will, sliced through the air with a haunting grace, each stroke an embodiment of his pent-up rage. Panic gripped the crowd, but there was no escape from the wrath of the specter. One by one, the tormentors fell, their mocking laughter silenced forever in the chorus of agonizing screams. The climax of this nightmare ballad arrived when Sam cornered Bella, the girl who had reveled in his pain, who had pushed him over the edge. now faced the consequences of her cruelty. As the others watched who were still alive, horrified, they sat silent as Sam extended his hand, the blade glinting ominously under the harsh glow of the auditorium lights with shades of crimson.
"Shall we dance?"
he asked, his voice barely more than a chilling whisper. Bella, paralyzed with terror, could only nod, her eyes wide with fear. With a swift, almost supernatural movement, Sam slashed, painting the air with a spray of scarlet. The auditorium reverberated with Bella's final blood-curdling scream, abruptly silenced by the merciless blade. Sam turned to the remaining crowd and lunged like a banshee. And then there was silence. The once bustling auditorium transformed into a chilling tomb, its walls bearing witness to the horrors that unfolded within. The dance was over, but the echoes of Sam Cruelly's wrath would forever resonate in the haunted halls of Havenport High, serving as a chilling reminder of the devastating consequences of cruelty. It seems that Sam got his dance after all, but Sam made sure that it was Bella's curtain call. We tend to treat others extremely cruel and find power within treating others with venomous intentions, poisoning their conscience, and potentially pushing some individuals a little too hard when they're already standing on the edge and looking for any reason to fall. As we move on to our next tale, let this story be a reminder to treat others how you wish to be treated, and maybe, just maybe, put a pause on the tricks from time to time. Our next story, too, has a tragic ending. For some, tricks and mischief lead to far greater consequences than we could ever believe as possible. And for one group of Twilight vandals, that is quite the understatement. For this next story, let's take a walk. Our next tale, you ask? Amongst the Stalks. In the beautiful town of Willowbrook, surrounded by lush green fields and rolling hills, lived a humble farmer named Mr. Johnson. His hands, weathered from years of hard work, and his face, kissed by the sun, showed the dedication he had to his land. He had grown endless rows of corn, standing tall and proud as a testament to his efforts. However, Mr. Johnson faced a problem in his peaceful countryside. A group of mischievous children had been causing trouble by damaging his precious crops. In the darkness of night, the children sneaked through the maze-like cornfields, their laughter mixing with the sound of leaves rustling as they trampled on the sturdy stalks. They took pleasure in causing destruction, even setting fires to the field, creating an eerie glow that tainted the once serene landscape. Mr. Johnson, filled with righteous anger, clenched his fists in frustration and shouted curses that were swallowed by the vastness of the night. The weight of their actions burdened him, and he questioned why these children would cause such harm. Night after night, his spirit weakened as he endured this relentless onslaught. Stress finally consumed him, leaving him a shadow of his former self, lacking the vitality he once had. The children, driven by their mischievous desires, once again ventured into the cornfields, eager to wreak havoc. However, their actions would soon have haunting consequences. As they approached their secret playground, their excitement abruptly turned to terror. For they found Mr. Johnson amongst the swaying corn stalks. They discovered his lifeless body, a tragic result of their reckless behavior. Shock, remorse, and overwhelming guilt filled the air, leaving the children trembling with the weight of their actions. Filled with remorse, the children made a solemn promise to never return to the cornfields. Little did they know, the spirit of the farmer had other plans. The fragile scarecrow, once a still guardian, came to life, consumed by the vengeful essence of the deceased farmer. It transformed into a terrifying figure. Its stitched smile twisted into a gruesome expression, emitting an eerie presence. With a malevolent gaze, the scarecrow began a sinister mission, relentlessly pursuing and eliminating the guilty children and showing no mercy. Terrified, the children screamed and ran as fast as their trembling legs would carry them. But the scarecrow was relentless indeed, its creaking steps closing in on them. The cornfield became a labyrinth of fear, with no escape in sight. The scarecrow's eyes glowed with an eerie light, reflecting the twisted pleasure it derived from its wicked purpose. With clattering steps, it approached the innocent children, its straw hands sharpened to inflict harm. Its sole aim was to hurt its unsuspecting victims. Each heartless strike pierced their tender flesh, eliciting anguished screams that filled the air. The scent of blood and fear hung heavy, creating a chilling atmosphere of terror. The neighboring cornstalks whispered mysteriously through the wind, seeming to be aware of the unfolding horror and silently approving. Once its gruesome task was completed, the scarecrow returned to its post, climbing back onto the wooden cross that held it upright. Its eyes, once lifeless, now gleamed with an eerie light, embodying the farmer's wrath. From that night onward, Skelly Bones, the malevolent scarecrow, stood as a spectral guardian of the farm, ever watchful over the fields. The sight of this ominous figure sent shivers down the spines of the townsfolk, mixing admiration with trepidation as they approached the haunted scarecrow, paying their respects with a mixture of awe and unease. The haunting tale of Skelly Bones transcended the boundaries of Willowbrook, captivating curious souls from near and far who were drawn to the allure of the supernatural. It served as a chilling reminder, a cautionary tale, to never underestimate the anger of a farmer and the dire consequences of trespassing on his land. The once vibrant cornfields now held a foreboding secret, forever protected by the wicked scarecrow, once a vessel for the tormented soul of the farmer himself. Visitors dared not tread lightly, for the hairs on their necks stood on end as if sensing the presence of Skelly Bones lurking nearby. Whispers of his harrowing story echoed through the air, sending a chill down the spines of those willing to listen. The cursed scarecrow continued to haunt the eerie cornfields of Willowbrook, an eternal sentinel of fear from the darkest void. When we get caught up in our devilish ways, we tend to forget that retaliation soon follows, especially from beyond the grave. We hope you are enjoying our new Tales of Terror and that you look forward to more spine-numbing volumes to come in the future. But fear not. We have one final story to quench your bitter thirst for revenge on this cold, dark night of horrific pleasure. Some tales of revenge are deeper than mere retaliation. Some memories refuse to be locked inside of the darkest closets of all. Some skeletons still retain flesh and rot, forever hungering for redemption like a vicious zombie. For our final story, sit back and have a drink. The title of this tale, Blondie. In the heart of a city consumed by darkness, there lived a businessman named Charles Pratt. By day, he presented himself as a respectable figure, but when the moon cast its eerie glow, he would descend into the depths of the nightclub known as the Devil's Playground. Hidden away in a desolate alley, this den of iniquity held a reputation shrouded in dread. Little did anyone know, Charles harbored a sinister secret. Deep within his twisted soul, he nurtured a perverse obsession with the exhilaration of committing unspeakable acts of violence. His dark desires led him to prowl the dimly lit corners of the Devil's Playground, seeking unsuspecting women to quench his insatiable bloodthirst. After satisfying his gruesome cravings, he would dispose of their remains in the murky depths of a nearby swamp, forever concealing his malevolent deeds. One fateful night, Charles returned to the Devil's Playground, his heart pounding with anticipation. Amidst the pulsating music and swirling haze of smoke, he laid his eyes upon a woman of ethereal beauty. Her striking features and alluring aura captivated him, drawing him closer with an irresistible magnetism. Emboldened by his wicked desires, he approached her, offering to buy her a drink. Much to his surprise, she accepted his offer. But then when the drink arrived, she declined to partake in the beverage. A flicker of offense passed through Charles, the first crack in his facade of control. Nevertheless, he chose to drink the tainted elixir himself, dismissing her refusal as inconsequential. As the night wore on, the enchanting woman known only as Blondie accepted Charles' invitation to his secluded home. When they arrived, Charles lunged on top of Blondie, thrusting her backward onto his bed and stripped her of her clothing. The air thickened with tension as they became intimate, their bodies entwined in a dance of forbidden desires. Just as the noose of Charles' wickedness tightened around his conscience, Blondie twisted him over onto his back and straddled him, her eyes burning with an otherworldly intensity. With a voice dripping with malice, she whispered,
"Do you remember me, Charles?"
Confusion clouded his mind as he struggled to comprehend her cryptic words. Suddenly, like a torrential downpour, his consciousness was flooded with memories he had long suppressed. In the depths of his mind's eye, Charles saw the face of his first victim, a young girl whose life he had callously snuffed out. The memory played out in horrifying detail, her desperate gasps for air suffocated by the cruel blade of his hand as her lifeblood stained the ground. He had mockingly urged her to speak up.
"What's that, Blondie? I can't understand you."
Relishing in the terror he inflicted upon her. Shaken to his core, Charles snapped back into reality, only to find Blondie transformed into a ghastly specter. Her ethereal form, once captivating, now exuded an otherworldly malevolence.
"I told you I would come back for you, Charles,"
Blondie gargled. In her cold, lifeless hands, she clutched a gleaming knife, glinting with a sinister intent. With a chilling determination, Blondie thrust the deadly blade into Charles' chest repeatedly, her eyes gleaming with vengeful wrath. Each plunge of the blade sent shock waves of searing pain through his body, his agonized screams echoing through the hollow corridors of his home. Blood cascaded from his wounds, staining the pristine white carpet with a macabre tapestry of his demise. As his life force waned, Charles caught a final glimpse of Blondie's lifeless corpse, her eyes devoid of mercy. She emerged from his dying body, her ghostly form moving with an otherworldly grace. With every step she took, wet, bloody footprints marked her passage, as if she were reclaiming her rightful place in the swampy abyss from whence she came. And so, Charles met his gruesome end, forever condemned to the torments of the darkness he embraced. The echo of his wickedness lingered in the shadows, a chilling reminder of the horrors that lurk beneath the surface of all humanity. Revenge has a way of haunting us all, from the physical, subconscious, and even from beyond the veil. Our best bet is to keep ourselves out of destructive situations, but sometimes, even when we stay behind locked doors, the devils of this world come knocking. Will you answer the door? Until our next dance, creatures, stay safe, sleep well, and keep your wits about you.